Hey, can you hear me?
Yep. Can you hear me?
You're loud and clear.
Is this live?
No.
Oh, okay. I brought my computer out. I said, man, the comment section is going to be popping.
I don't know how to do that yet.
Oh, okay. That's the way to go, Devon.
I know. If yeah, I'll have to talk to somebody who knows how to do that live stuff. And yeah, that's absolutely the future. Next time we do this, we'll go live.
Yeah.
Hey, before we get started, do you see what I did here?
I kind of see it.
Yeah, my beard is so weak you can't really tell, but I wanted to throw some contrast here, so I shaved what you got going on.
Yeah. I don't have much of a beard either. My mustache just covers it up for everything. So even when you think I have a beard or a goatee, it's just all mustache.
Yeah, super overpowering. Okay, so before we get into things, I wanted to give a quick introduction of you, and yeah. So Herman Stevens is probably the very best arm wrestler that you might not know about. Um, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've been arm wrestling a little bit more than 10 years now.
Yep.
Yeah. And interestingly, you are now ranked. Are you ranked number one in the left?
No, I'm ranked number 1 in the 220 in North America, and I'm somewhere top 10 left at 220 in North America.
Okay, so hold on. So you're number one left-handed in North America at 220? Oh, you're
Or am I
freezing up.
cutting out?
Oh, it's maybe me. I don't know. There was a little freeze there. So correct me if I'm wrong. You're number one left-handed 220 in North America?
Number 1 right 220, and I might be 5 to 10 left-handed 220. And that's in North America on the In the Hook rankings.
Yeah. That's
and I think there's another rankings for the United States that were recently made. I was number 1 at 209, and I was bumped down under Dan Mosier at 209. I think for no real reason other than maybe he's more active or something like that.
so interesting. I definitely want to talk about all that later, but I want to go on and introduce you a little bit more. So, totally legit arm wrestler. You've traveled the world crushing people. Most notably for me, I'm really glad to have you on the show. You're a super smart guy. What do you do in your real life?
My day job, I'm a mechanical engineer, and I guess on the side, I'm a real estate investor.
Beautiful. And you're down in Louisiana?
Yep, Hurricane City.
Yeah. You just had your house trashed, yeah?
My house trashed, a couple buildings trashed, and my place of work trashed. When I left, I said, no matter what, I'll be able to live in one of my 3 properties down here. And that was not true. And as we were heading back, I got phone calls saying, hey, what's going on at work? There's a lot of smoke. And the whole place burnt up. So now we're in the rebuilding process. And along with that came, about 100 layoffs. So it's kind of a bummer. But the whole city's a wreck, Devon. I mean, my situation is nothing. It's a cakewalk compared to what a lot of people are doing down here or going through. Whole homes leveled. Some of these people don't have insurance. Some of these people don't have jobs or we're living on Social Security. There's no way to really recover from it financially. So a lot of bad stuff down here. And you watch the news, you'll see a tornado wreck through a trailer park or something like that, impact, 50 to 100 people. But these hurricanes are 30, 50 miles wide, maybe more. And impacting hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah, we don't have anything like that up here in Canada. We just got this winter every year to deal with.
Yeah.
So were you raised in Louisiana, moved and then moved back?
Yep. I'm born and raised in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Dad's a entrepreneur / cowboy / basketball star. Mom's a teacher. And after college, I went to California for about 6 years and got to experience Tom Nelson and Kenny Hughes and all those guys.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great crew. And cowboy's got to be probably the coolest job in the world. So
Yeah.
pretty jealous of your dad right now. So, I mean, is it always hurricane season in Louisiana? Like, I mean, is this normal?
I guess warm water season, so it's probably from, I don't know, May to November, something like that. But it's cyclical, right? So you probably get a tropical storm and hurricanes every year, but they're minor. But then every 10, 15 years, you get some pretty superstorms. One of them that hit us was a direct hit, and it was the worst storm in 150 years to hit Louisiana. And 6 weeks later, we got another superstorm that hit us, direct hit again. So unprecedented year to get one of these storms, let alone two of them within 6 weeks and directly going over my city.
Yeah, that is rough. Yeah, a lot of the news when you hear about Louisiana, I mean, a lot of it has to do with crazy weather these days. You gonna build different this time?
It's actually just easier for me to just buy another house in the meantime. If I rebuild on this site, I'll build up a few more feet, although flood wasn't the issue. But anytime you build something, you go higher than what you went before. Yeah.
So you and I always like to talk to you. We have been on different sides of a couple conversations. And for everybody who's watching, the reason why you don't know Herman better is because he's one of the guys who did not sign the WAL contract. Okay. You and I have gone back and forth on this behind the scenes and DMs and in public, when we've talked to each other, and I've always tried to convince you to sign the contract. And you've had your reasons for not. And I know, like, from my perspective, I know that left hand, I always thought that you were, and that's why I thought you were ranked higher left-handed. But I thought that there wasn't really anybody in the class who was hanging with you left-handed, or you were so close.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got one between leagues, contracts, and all this other stuff. We got to compete to even find out who's who, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, again, I think that's some of the mix-up on the rankings. And then two, I've got this like C5, C6 musculocutaneous nerve injury thing. It impacts my hands and my bicep, and it kills my left, Devon. I can wake up one day during a training cycle, my left is half as strong as my right arm. And for years, and it's been like this for 5 or 6 years, and I always thought it was just a left arm thing. I've learned recently that it impacts my right also. And so my right's not even as good as it could be. However, I think I fixed it, or I know how to manage it now. And so between that, once I get over the elbow thing, like, I'm ready to roll.
Okay, so C5, C6, where is that? Is that
That's somewhere in the lower neck? Yeah, lower neck, I think.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than nerves. Is that what happened to Dave?
Something like that. I mean, his arm shriveled up. It's happened to Ingen. Ingen's arm shriveled up. And I think Ingen says he does well now doing neck traction and things like that. I've always had like recurring neck strains and all kinds of neck weirdness. I could go to see a chiropractor, and then, 2 days later, I'm 30% stronger, 40% stronger. But that was sort of temporary. And I don't believe I need to go to chiropractor every week for the rest of my life. Early 2020, I did like a GMB fitness mobility program for about 3 weeks. And along with avoiding some food stuff that may have been the problem, I haven't had any issues since. It's been a year. Haven't seen a chiropractor. Haven't even done the mobility stuff. I don't understand how it just went away, Devon. I'm hoping it's gone.
So you're saying it was a nutritional thing?
So I think one of them was for sure neck posture and positioning. Again, I did 3 weeks of a mobility program. It's hard for me to believe that was just it. Like 3 weeks of mobility work and going back to my desk job for the next year why hasn't it come back? The other thing was, I think I was eating things that was killing me. Things probably like nightshades and peppers and tomatoes and lectins. It's a very common allergen, irritant, autoimmune issue for people. And typically when I cut weight, right, I cut out all my carbohydrates. I get back to just meats, tomatoes, peppers. And I was cutting weight and no weight's coming off. And that was never an issue. I could eat the same diet. I get rid of those few foods and like 10, 15 pounds comes off overnight. So I think it was causing a lot of like just rampant inflammation. And I don't know if that was something was inflamed in my neck and that was also causing the nerve issues. But I haven't pinpointed it. But between 3 weeks of mobility work and a whole year of avoiding those foods, it seems to have gone away.
Was Dan Mosier slipping you those peppers?
Probably.
Yeah.
I'd believe it. And check this out, Devon. So I went to IFA Worlds in 2019. Was it? Yeah, 2019. I won right, placed second left, did Zloty the 2 days after that. And so, okay, I looked okay. 4 weeks before that event, I went to the chiropractor. My right hand measured 150 pounds on the dynamometer. My left hand measured 120. That's a huge gap, right? I leave the chiropractor day later, 2 days later. My right's at 180 and my left's at 170.
Wow.
Okay, so I go to IFA. I do well. I come back, do the mobility program thing, change my diet. Literally overnight, my right's in the 220 to 230 range, and my left's in the 210 to 220 range. This is around what Ungarbayev and Rustem did on the dynamometer, right? I'm not as strong as those guys in a general sense, but if we're just talking squeezing or whatever, I would expect myself to be in the ballpark. So even at IFA, I was arguably 30% weaker, right, than I could have been in the hands. My biceps could have been worse off. So I'm pretty excited, and again, I don't know what the pinpointed solution was, but, I'm pretty excited.
I bet you it had a lot to do with the mobility. You don't train your neck normally, do you?
No, I mean, I lift crazy heavy weights. And so I think what needs to get hit gets hit. But no, I don't do any flexibility or any of that other stuff.
Every once in a while, I have had like minor neck issues, and with just, doing the the regular stuff, I've found that it goes away quite quickly. So, and it might just be residual. It might just be something that you have to do like once a year or once every year and a half just to touch up. But anyways, so you've started a YouTube channel. How long has it been going? I feel like, and I saw you posted some stuff on there, so I wanted to have you on because we do have a little bit of a disagreement on something, or maybe not disagreement, but I certainly want you to have the ability to bring anything to light that you want, and I'd love to help you with that. I think you're a super smart guy. So I'm going to put links to your channel below. Everybody go and subscribe. And I'm glad that you are joining this social media kind of thing, which I thought for such a long time you were somewhat against.
Well, I mean, we did the we did the podcast.
Oh yeah, that's right.
A year and a half or 2 years ago. And I'm telling you, Devon, that thing was growing like fast. It was going to be just, it was so ridiculous. I mean, we had you on there, this, between Gabi and Drellick, and the dynamics were great. I mean, we had freaking Scott Norton on the show. Like the thing was going to be a beast. I opened it up the other day. Like it's still getting views. It does better than the channel I'm actively working on. And nothing's happening. I started the personal channel then. But between the baby and work and all that other stuff, I just kind of put it on hold. And injuries, that didn't help either. So I think I'm back and I'm here to stay. I think it helps me stay within the community and maybe makes me more active than anything. Also, with the way arm wrestling's going, I think we'll probably get into it. It might come down to if you aren't popular on social media, you don't pull, right?
Definitely,
that's potentially where it's going.
Yeah, it's definitely a part of what gives you value to a promoter. I think that's an interesting thing. Like, I've gotten to a place where a lot of people know who I am, but I also feel like for the most part, I know who everybody kind of is in the community, and the community, the people who really know what's going on. The greater world community that's interested in arm wrestling, not all of them know. So there's definitely value to be had with somebody who has 20,000 Instagram followers versus somebody who doesn't, regardless of skill levels, from a promoter standpoint. But there are definitely people who we know are absolute monsters who have very small representations on social media.
Yeah, like Rob Vidget.
Yeah, well, he's just starting up his channel now. Yeah.
Well, it's still under his wife's name, and he just cranked out a few videos. So I don't know if that really counts.
Yeah. So okay. So let's hit on that really quick, because that to me is so interesting. Because you talk about the 200-pound class, and even though you're ranked 209, 220, I still think that you can, like, 200 is not a problem, right?
No, and I mean there's an argument, Devon, that I should be a 176. Like, I am small.
Yeah,
I am small.
Well,
that's not happening. But I'm saying, like, there's an argument there. I'm so small.
Who's saying that you could make 176?
No one's saying that. I'm just saying there's an argument frame-wise that I should be a 176. I'm just too fat. That's the argument.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I think 176, you could probably do it, but like, that's like me making 200 pounds. I can do it. I can make 200, but it's probably not where you want to see me.
Yeah. I could also get divorced and lose my son.
Yeah. As soon as I start to get around, I walk around, 245 normally. That's normal for me. 245 now, I'm a bit fatter, sometimes 250. But, if I get down to 225, 220, I'm just way more angry all the time. Like,
yeah.
So 200 pounds, North America. You got RVJ. RVJ is the World Arm Wrestling League champion of the world. Right? What do you think of that? Champion of, okay, so let's start off with, is RVJ the champion of North America at 200 pounds?
Yeah, I would say so. Especially when you say it's North America. I really look at WAL as mostly a North American type league. And so then you'd have to ask yourself, who is Rob not competing against outside of the WAL in North America? And it's probably Dan Mosier, and it's myself, right? It's not because he doesn't want to. It's just kind of the dynamics we have going on. Yeah, and I mean, I don't have a claim, to be honest with you, to be like the absolute best guy in North America at 200 pounds. I haven't been that active with the North American guys. It's not because I can't. It just hasn't worked out, whether it's contracts or life or that sort of thing. Mosier hasn't had the opportunity, but again, it's not because Rob isn't open to it, but Rob's beaten most of the top 200-pound guys in the last few years.
I think that mostly I can say that if you are in the upper tier of North American arm wrestling, for the most part, you have signed the contract. There's a very short list, and that's where the question marks lie. I mean, Dan Mosier, I don't know why he hasn't had a match yet. I think he's had a really good kind of year and a half, and I'm sure that WAL is going to want him to get involved when they start back up. And it's really, well, what?
I mean, he was on a tear. He was on a tear a couple of years ago. I mean, he had beaten Seal, I think, at the regional in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm definitely not a WAL insider, but listening to Neil and some of the other stuff, piecing it together, I think the verdict is that he's a speed demon. He's going to get stopped, and the matches won't be interesting. Right? And again, the league isn't purely who's the best in North America. It's partially we want good matches. That's the feel that I got listening to some of the discussions, is that he's not a good super match guy.
I have a hard time believing that that's totally true. I think that absolutely, and look, I'm not, like, I don't speak for the WL, but I would say that WL absolutely is looking for people who are fun to watch, but very heavy consideration is, are you going to win? Are you the champion? And I think that if a guy actually legit was in that top, 3 in North America, it wouldn't matter how boring they were. They'd want him on.
But we got Dave Chafee in the super heavyweights. Oh, come on. Come on. Come on.
I love Dave. I'm just teasing. I gotta poke Dave every chance I get.
But I think Dan's resume, let's say 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, was better than Ryan Bowen's.
Well, yeah, they're really close, that's for sure. But Bowen is just so active, right? And he represents a different demographic from Australia. So, I mean, I could see the appeal for them, wanting to get Bowen in for sure.
Correct. And then Paul Lynn, I don't remember when Paul Lynn first jumped on board, but if it was before Paul beat Dan at the Arnold, then I would say Paul got in with a lesser resume than Dan's. Because I don't think Paul had a Jordan Seal type win or any of that other stuff, and I don't think Paul won a regional like Dan did or whatever that Los Angeles event was. But I could be wrong. Maybe Paul came in after he beat Dan. I'm not sure.
Maybe it's close though. Either way.
Yeah.
So, do you have a regret? I mean, when was it? Was it 2014 or 15 that they started to give the athletes pressure about signing the contract?
They gave pressure from day one. So summer 2014, my first ever WAL event, 55 people in the right-hand class. They were pressuring before. They were pressuring after. I get third place. I choose not to sign. And in my head, I'm going to the finals, which would have been the 2014 finals would have been in January 2015.
Right. Yeah.
And that's when they said contracts were mandatory.
Was that Vegas?
The summer event that I talked about was in Vegas. I think the finals were in New Orleans, maybe.
Yeah. Was that the one where they raffled off the bike?
Maybe so. I didn't go, right? So, I mean, some of the details.
Okay. No. Oh, you weren't at that one.
Not the finals.
No. I'm not talking about the finals. That was the.
Vegas? Maybe, Devon. I don't remember. But you were there. I think. Okay. Was that when you and Brandon Bodwin pulled?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was there. I got third out of 55, right-handed. I was second to Todd and Chad Silvers because Todd protected Chad Silvers, in the finals.
Right. I remember.
Yep.
Okay. So, regrets? Any regrets?
No. Right. And so here's the trade-off. I think I've done more outside of WAL than I would have done inside the WAL, but I definitely would have been more famous inside of the WAL. If I had signed the contract with WAL, I would not have been able to pull Alan Ford in 2015 for the PAL Vendetta. And that's cool. I mean, some people may prefer WAL, but not too many Americans have done a PAL Vendetta. That was cool. 2016, I was able to do the Todd Hutchings mega match, 5 matches left, 5 matches right. I love that format, alternating hands. We would have never been able to do that match, that type of match in the WAL, both hands. I don't think there was a guarantee that I would have even pulled Todd once in the WAL at that time because it was all tournaments, right? So it's possible, let's say Storm would have bumped me or somebody else, but I was able to get my Todd Hutchings match that I wanted in 16. In 17, I wouldn't have been able to go to Zloty, which I did. I got third place right-handed in a class that Prudnick did not place in. The guy that beat Prudnick, I fucking roasted. Like he couldn't touch me. He was running. And the third place in that Zloty 95 kilogram class, I think I'm one of only 3 Americans to place in that class. The other 2 being John Brzezinski, who's won it, obviously, and Todd Hutchings, who's won it, right? And to go ahead and say I did it drug-free is pretty cool. Not that drugs aren't that big a deal, but if you can go there clean, I think it says a whole lot.
Yeah, for sure.
18, I didn't do much. Life's busy. I went to Zloty again. 19, same thing. So, yeah, I think I did some stuff, Devon, that across the board might have trumped just being a roster guy, right? Or doing that same thing every year.
Now, there's a lot of, I think that there's a lot of misconceptions about the contract. And like, I certainly have been under contract the entire time, right? Like, I signed 2014. I've been under contract, basically the entire time. And it really hasn't really stopped me from doing anything.
But was your contract the contract that I read?
No, not exactly, but pretty much. Pretty much.
And Devon, a lot of people, I read the contracts. The contracts would not have allowed me to do what I just told you. Now, had I signed it and then later on I said, hey, Steve, can I do this? I really want to do it. Would he have let me do it? I don't know. But see, I don't operate that way, Devon. Right? And this is like a serious moment, but it's kind of funny. You ever watch all those movies and it's the black musicians? Right? And you got like the slimy music executive and he comes and he makes them sign the contracts and they all get fucked.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
As the black arm wrestler, Devon, I'm not signing the contract that clearly won't let me do anything. I can't trust the system.
Yeah. I never even read it. I just basically signed it the first time.
Yeah, no, I get it. But see, that's the thing, that I'm the guy that reads the stuff. I'm the guy that holds up the line in the rental car place reading the agreement, Yeah. And I mean, I hate that that's what it was, but they were very restrictive. I mean, It was your TV rights. Then it morphed over time because of the cell phones and YouTube. It was the streaming rights, meaning that if I went to a local tournament and somebody's grandmother pulled out the phone and streamed it, Steve Kaplan could have called me and ruined my day and threatened me and all this other crap. Now, the truth is, like, was he going to sue me, for what little peanuts that I have? Probably not. But I wasn't even going to entertain the conversation.
Right.
So
now,
I hate that that's what it was.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, I feel like there's a few guys who missed the party. And I do think that I always, and I still would argue with you, and I am right now, that I do think he should have signed. But I do agree that the contracts need to be looked at for sure. Okay. They can be, if enforced, very restrictive. Now, for the most part, WAL is legit, very, very flexible. And they've actually, they're extremely helpful, in fact. But did you ever consider a counter offer, or did you go back and forth with them at all?
No, I spoke to Tim Bresnan. He actually had those types of discussions, even writing in details and modifications, and they scrapped it. They weren't having it, right? So Tim's profile is higher than mine, just like your profile is higher than mine. So if Tim can't negotiate it, I don't think that I can negotiate it. So that's kind of the stance I took. And, crazy shit going on in life. Like, I didn't have time to be fighting over some contracts with WAL, right? I took care of personal business, and then when tournaments came up, I went to them,
Yeah. I always thought, for me, and I think that you and a lot of arm wrestlers look at things the same way. Really, you want to be as good as you can be, and you don't ever want there to be a ceiling. So if you want to have an opportunity to be the best guy in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that I always thought that was maybe one of the reasons why you didn't sign, because you thought you weren't sure that WAL housed the number one in the world.
No, I mean, I don't think that was ever the deterrent. I think it really was purely the lack of freedom.
The lack of freedom.
Right? Lack of freedom was the control thing and that sort of thing. I don't think it was really about, if you told me that the contract was flexible, I'm a WAL guy, but I can only do, one other event a year. Like, you would limit, but I had some amount of freedom. I would have done it, because I would have taken my shots at Todd Hutchings all year, or climbed the ladder to get to Todd, who at the time was arguably number one at that weight. And then I had my other shot to go get or compete against the other guy that might be the best guy in the world, right? Or the alternate format tournament setting, which I may actually be better at. I don't know. So I don't think that was ever the issue. I think more so now, and Rob's going to hate this, I think that would be the issue more now, because Todd's not in the 200-pound class.
Now, right? Do you think that that Rob is going to be stuck pulling North Americans, or do you think hypothetically that they're going to bring in harder and harder opponents for him?
I don't know, Devon. I mean, there's There's the arm wrestling side and there's the business, right?
Mm.
I don't think the WAL really wants some Russian dude who's boring, not cool, and speaks no English to win. I just don't think it works. I wouldn't want it. Like, I understand that part of the business. I wouldn't even argue against it. I completely understand why that would be the case. So I think there's probably a ceiling on who they can bring in, right? Or definitely you have to slow roll it, right? I wouldn't just throw, this Rob's a monster in his own right, but he hasn't been pulling against those other monsters, right? So I think Rob's the shark that's in the small tank, and Rob needs to get in a bigger tank so he can grow.
I think they're going to bring more sharks. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think it's inevitable because I feel like he's kind of separated himself. I feel like he's beaten everybody in North America except for you and Mosier recently. And I feel like, you're going to start to see Sasho, Irakli, guys like that getting offers to come and play. I mean, they do want European guys. It's inevitable.
Yeah, I think Rob needs it, right?
Yeah.
I know Rob, just Rob's mentality. I mean, he wants to be known as the best guy in the world. I think he does. I mean, he doesn't work as hard as the rest of us. I mean, if we're going to be honest, but he has far more potential, than I do in arm wrestling. So if Rob half-assed it, and I'm 100% healthy, and I'm working like I did years ago, I still have no shot. That's how good Rob. That's how much potential Rob has, right?
Mm.
So, I mean, if you're Rob, you need those other guys. Otherwise, you're going to hear all the doubters and the really logical arguments that you're not the best guy because you didn't pull the other guys. I mean, there's an argument that he's pulling legitimately a completely lower tier that he should be pulling. Like the guys aren't even on his level, right?
Well, I mean, we've seen a couple 3-1s and 3-2s, and I mean, there were some good matches last season. I mean, him and
But it's because
Sawyer.
he's in the small tank. Once you throw him in the bigger tank, I mean, he just kind of he should. That's what should happen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I do. I still think that Rob has even greater potential, for sure. For sure he does.
And I think I probably missed my window with Rob, right? He beat me in 2013. I beat him in 14. And I would have said, Devon, 15, 16, 17, maybe 18. Even if I'm not 100% committed, I'm beating Rob.
Well, how old are you now?
I'm 31.
Okay, so, I mean, I think Rob is 40.
Of course. And I'm about to ramp up, Devon. So you're going to see the best Herman ever every year, I think, for the next 10 years. But, I mean, I have that much respect for Rob's abilities that if Rob's doing what he's supposed to do, I shouldn't be able to touch Rob. And if I'm Rob, I would be insulted, and he probably is, by all of these discussions.
Yeah, he is.
But Rob didn't put the work in that I put in, right?
Yeah.
If Rob had put in the work that I put in, he'd be Brzezinski-like. He wouldn't have 30 years of dominance. It's a different world, right? But within that weight class, I think he'd be completely dominant.
Yeah, definitely. There's not a lot of people who you can put next to him. I think that there's some European question marks, but yeah, definitely North America. I think he has it all cleaned up. Yeah. So I noticed on your channel you've been talking about a couple things. Talking about King's Move, everybody's favorite subject, and freedom arm wrestling a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you might have had a bit of a misunderstanding about something that I said on my memory's terrible, but we talked about not stretching your arm out or something, or and I said it depends on how much you want to sacrifice. And I think maybe I wasn't fully clear, but I'd love to talk about that just a little bit more.
All right.
Okay, so first,
yeah, go ahead.
So first off, before we even go down the what do I think people should do, just know that I have had 3 surgeries in my elbows to remove calcification. Okay. So I want it to be well known that, when it was a choice for me, do I want to build up my bone and be all calcified? I chose to have 3 surgeries to get rid of it.
So let me ask you this: you had 3 surgeries on one arm, or 2 on one on the other, or
two on the right. So I had the first one. I think it was like 2013. It was like, so when I pulled Tim Bresnan, I think it was 2000. It was a 2012 or something. And I think like weeks after that match. Okay, so I pulled Tim Bresnan, and then like I think 3 or 4 weeks later, I pulled Pushkar. And it was just a couple weeks after the Pushkar match that I had right elbow surgery. And then and they took over a cup of bone out of my elbow. And, let
me ask you this question. What prompted that surgery? Was it like years of pain and things developing, or like, were you that messed up after pulling Tim, or like what happened there?
Tim had absolutely nothing to do with it at all. It was, it was not an acute injury. It was 100% chronic. So, between me being completely an idiot with my training and my frequency, and not just in arm wrestling, like I was fighting, I was shooting like 1,000 rounds a day with pistol, like just way too much, just over the course of probably, so 2013, so I was born in 75, so probably 85, you're looking at probably a good 25 to 30 years of like me, holding the gas on full. And
And what are you feeling? Are you in pain every day? I mean,
So, what happened was, okay, so I had, what I would say that I had was really accelerated arthritic changes to my elbow. So what happened was, and I think that it was probably, of all the things that I talk about, all the silly training and shooting and fighting and arm wrestling that I did, I'd say that it was arm wrestling that pushed it more than anything. And probably the thing that pushed it more than anything was competitive arm wrestling. So ready goes at tournaments or super matches, combined with the way that I used to arm wrestle, really probably set me back. I remember, I think it was probably around 99. So I was younger. I was like 24. A guy called Earl Wilson. He was Canadian. He was actually he won the Worlds, I think, the following year. But total monster.
Dude's a beast.
Total beast. Like, the guy is a throwback. He's still strong. Anyways, but I had it in my mind that I was going to beat him. So I visualized this match for like 3 months, exactly what I was going to do. And I got it was at a Mike Gould Classic, and I ended up actually beating him with a press, like a complete psycho. But during the process of me, coming at him, I absolutely stretched out this to probably more than just a stretch. It was probably some degree of tear, and really, like, I couldn't do this for basically a year and a half when I was 24, and I just top rolled for like a year, and didn't stop, didn't have surgery, didn't go see a doctor, and then once it healed up, I injured it again, and I think that through the course of probably the ligaments in my elbows kind of being loosened and then reconstructing, the little bit of looseness and play in the joint, probably the joint, what it did was it just threw out spurs to protect itself and add tightness. And what kind of this over like the next 15 years, and me not stopping, kind of what it resulted in was the thing that really was the trigger for me to having the surgery was, so when you have a lot of spurs in your elbow, you will get tendonitis just quicker. It'll just be quicker. So, I mean, general training, like hard training, if you've got a spurred up elbow, you're just gonna inflame faster with spurs. And it can get to a point where it can just generally start to restrict you in a way that your blood flow is starting to be impinged. And then the big one is when the nerves start to become impinged. And I was basically dead all the time. Like if I kept my hand moving like a shark,
Yeah.
it would stay alive. But if I ever like went to sleep, had a hard workout, that thing was dead. So, and there was and believe me, I was trying everything that I could do, and I was in a backward slide, and I knew. I was like, I basically needed it at that point. So, anyways, yeah, that's kind of what spurred me to do it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if I didn't have, like, if I was like still strong and had no nerve issue, or the inflammation wasn't causing me like a lot of pain, and I was just super strong in a shorter range, I probably wouldn't have got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
on the King's Move, I guess.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, I made a video. Well, Devon and I met on the Arm TV New Year's marathon, Armathon, and I asked Devon some questions regarding the King's Move. And so King's Move becoming more popular, shortened range of motion, open top rolling, all that good stuff. And my question was, should I choose to be disabled, right? Should I choose not to heal my arm or straighten my arm so that I become better at arm wrestling, considering the success of the King's Move? And Devon says something along the lines of, depends on what you want to sacrifice, right? And I made a follow-up video about it, basically saying that Devon said I should become disabled if I'm really serious about arm wrestling, right?
Yeah, so it's tricky, right? I mean, is arm wrestling worth becoming disabled? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Obviously, it's a tough call there. However, I really, really just want to say very clearly that I do not believe that becoming disabled is going to make you a better arm wrestler. I think if you can be healthy, you're going to be much, much better.
Yeah. And so it's kind of a thought exercise, Devon. I mean, if you watch arm wrestling and you see what's going on, you have Michael Todd like killing it. I think you've used the move to beat people that I don't think you otherwise would be able to beat currently. Maybe in the past you could. I see amateurs using the King's Move, right? And I think that's the next progression. Is like, why don't I shorten my range of motion to use this tool? I mean, I'm not saying that you're promoting it. I'm just saying that that's the next step.
Yeah. No.
It's not just I'm pulling for 20 years and my arm doesn't open. It's
actively going after it. Yeah. And you know what? There is perhaps something there. And look at the scary and real reality is that it's just a flight to Thailand, or wherever over there where you got some surgeon who is willing to do any number of crazy things, and when that starts to become a reality, then wow, right? Because we all know guys who blow their bicep. And anytime anybody blows their bicep, right away, I'm on the phone with them or I'm on Messenger and I'm like, hey man, make sure they drill that thing in, be like, drill that thing in as far up my forearm as possible, right? And we all know that when guys do have that surgery, they do come back. They do.
It's nuts. And we also know that we have arm wrestlers that get cosmetic surgery or invasive procedures all the time. Like that Jesse Gilliland guy. Remember that guy? He had the huge chest implants.
That was amazing. Yeah. And when he did rear delt, right? He had the delt.
Yeah, I think he had the fake rear delt. So again, if we are already going under the knife for vanity purposes, You don't think someone's going to have a elective King's move procedure?
Right. And to me, that could open the door to all sorts of crazy stuff. I mean, we already I mean, Icarus. I mean, this is a crazy road to go down. I mean, where do you draw the line, and where can you draw the line? Like, how are you going to stop a guy, right? Like, what stops a guy from going to Thailand and getting a procedure done?
Correct.
Nothing, right? Like, there's no, like, if I go and I'm like, hey doc, I want you to take my hamstring muscle and just reinforce all this shit. Like, I don't even know if that's medically possible. I just,
Oh, no, they can do all kinds of stuff. I mean, they add shin bones, they make people taller. So
yeah,
they can make a Michael Todd.
Yes. Yeah, I think they can. And that is no question, probably within 10 or 15 years, looking back on this conversation, it will have happened.
Let me ask you this. Is that what happened to Oleg Zoke? Are we uncovering something? Is he a synthetic human? Is that arm fake? Well, was it manufactured?
I think they did too good of a job. If I want to know that doctor, I think that's a gift. That's what I mean. You've like everything it's not just one thing. Like,
I don't know if you heard this. The story that I heard was that the umbilical cord was like wrapped around that arm or something like that. Yeah. And so I guess it was like some like in the womb, blood restrictive work. That's what Michael Todd's always trying to do. You know what I mean? With the cuffs on his arm.
That's great.
But my understanding is that it was an umbilical cord thing. And that's kind of what happened.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, there's a lot of guys now who.
Look, I don't speak Ukrainian. I just know like what I've seen on the internet and places,
Well, I've heard like so when you talk about arm wrestling freaks currently, and I'm not talking about man-made freaks. I'm talking about, how the person is born. You got guys like Jeff Dabe. So Jeff Dabe could be the best guy ever, forever, if that guy decided that he wanted to be, I think.
Well, I don't know. I mean, a lot of his size is like puffiness and swelling. I don't know, like,
because he doesn't train.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know how much, like, I know he has like size genetics, but does he have any sort of central nervous system, muscular genetics on top of it? But without a doubt, his hand is just ridiculous.
Have you seen pictures of Jeff Dabe when he was like 18?
No.
You on Instagram?
Yeah, I don't use it, but yeah, I can go find it.
Go look at Jeff Dabe's Instagram. He's posted a picture a while ago of him when he's like 18 or 19 or something. He looks like He-Man.
Gotcha. So had he started young and actually was a gym guy,
yeah, oh my God. I don't think that there would be any discussion about who the greatest of all time was when you've got a guy like Jeff Dabe walking around. I don't think so. I think he just didn't care. I think, when you've got this gift, it's like, oh, who gives a shit? I don't even have to do anything, and I beat everybody anyways, Yeah, so that's a type of freak. So I think he's got like some kind of gigantism.
Okay.
And then you got the Oleg and Matthias, and I don't know if they got the same thing.
Yeah, and then there's also a Turkish kid.
Yes. Yeah, and he's got it on both, right?
Yeah. And Makarov. Makarov's got a big arm thing going on too.
Yeah, he's like right on the fringes though. I feel like he's just trained so hard. I don't know. But there's definitely a genetic out there where you have like some extreme development that does not look like gigantism, right? And you have this asymmetry, which I've heard that it has to do with blood flow. I've heard it has to do with the arterial spread from the heart. I've heard that there's a condition that one artery or something out of the heart is larger than it should be. So basically, it's just more of a freeway to your left arm or your right arm or whatever, and you just get insane development.
Interesting. So how do I apply that to my 2-year-old? What can I do?
I think you start to go with that blood restriction everywhere. And you pick where you want the monster thing to be.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What do you think about new guys and amateurs doing the King's move?
Right. Okay. So,
and I'm sorry, it's really not the King's move. They're just arm barring. You know what I mean? Like straight arm.
okay. So, right. So, and that's the thing where there's been kind of a language thing. There's been a perception thing. And I think so much of it has to do with Michael and a couple of guys who have, and not just that, but it has to do with rules and things like that have really emotionally tied the audience to a bit of a misconception about this entire conversation. So the first thing is open top roll, King's move. Is that a synonym or is there a difference there?
Depends on who you're talking to. I think they're different, right? So I think the King's move, as we discussed it, as Derek Smith coined it and defined it, it's really a joint lock, right?
It's at the end.
It's at the end of the range of motion, and really the shortened range of motion is earned by the guy that's been around for 20 or 30 years, and that's kind of why he named it the King's move and that sort of thing, right?
Okay, so open top rolling is basically somewhere in the spectrum that leads to the end of the range of motion. So an open top roll kind of ends in a King's move.
Correct.
Okay, I think that's what we've kind of gotten to, but I think that I've been going around saying I'm King's move arm wrestling and stuff when I'm open top rolling, non-shoulder commitment top roll. I mean, to me that's a King's move, but I understand now that the thing that's really making people crazy is when you are at full extension and you are in an open top roll.
Yeah, like what you did with Pushkar in that left-handed match was an open top roll, right?
Hold on, Pushkar.
Back when you pulled Pushkar
that's
left.
right. Yeah,
that was an open top roll.
I mean, yeah, for sure. Round two, I got him in an open top roll. Yeah, open top roll.
Yeah, so and no one had a problem with that, right? However, if you would have been like
too open, right?
Yeah, that would have had it would have still been amazing that you beat Pushkar, but the reception would have been completely different.
Yes, I agree. Now it's interesting I started to really focus on. I grew up around George, right? So George is just like a 4-hour drive from where I live, where I've grown up. My coach was in the same division as George. Always trying to beat George, could never beat George, drove him insane. Okay. I'm very familiar with the King's move. I've grown up around it. I never really paid attention to it too much until I had my elbow surgery. And then even more after Michael beat me in 2018 with it. Those were like the 2 points where I was like, I really got to figure this stuff out. I started the King's move open top roll in my right hand after my surgery a lot because I couldn't internally stabilize at all really after the surgery.
I remember you did it to me in 2014 at that practice.
That's right. And what you start to realize when you are starting to learn about the open top roll and, it ending in a King's move or this entire spectrum is that, whether you're here or whether you're here or whether you're here, there's a whole lot of opportunities to legit stop the match before you are at the end of your range. In a strap, especially. Look, this whole conversation doesn't happen without a strap.
Yeah.
It's a strap style of top roll, which basically trades everything for you getting that guy's wrist to bend back.
Yeah, and I think people are on board with the open top roll, at different angles. I think the real sticking point is when, pun intended, is when you hit that end of range of motion. And that's where everyone that's where the discussions and the support break down, I mean, that's kind of Krasimir's thing is I've opened your arm up.
Yeah. It's now you may have opened the arm up, but your wrist is inevitably broken back. So there's a trade there. So the person is absolutely not out of the game. It's a little bit like a gambit, right? You're giving something away, but you're taking something else. And it becomes a positional game. And there's an argument. I know Krasimir's argument. He believes that any singular move should have the opportunity to beat any other move if it's good enough. And the problem with the King's move is if a person has the ability to King's move, I'll even say, look at open top roll. Like there are absolutely moves that counter other moves better. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why styles make matches, and we all know about that. And open top rolling is really great at stopping matches. And I actually think that it's really good against almost every style except for people who really know how to prioritize the top to claim their hand control, or people who don't need their hand at all and are able to block.
Yeah.
I think that the King's move does really well in that region of the sport. And I think, and I don't agree with the statement that you should have the right to just be able to arm wrestle anyway and have it beat all the other rules. Because I don't think that even really is, I don't think that that's going to work. Like, so for example, like a flopper.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that argument either. My thing would just be, okay, end of range of motion, joint locks, that sort of thing. I know you have some locks in the hook, but like if you're in the hook and you're joint lock, like there's a lot involved in keeping that supported. I don't think you can say the same for the King's move.
Well, but the King's move, the reason why it's working, the whole reason why it's working is because the person has lost hand control.
Correct. But again, you're still like Michael's talking, right, and holding people and chilling in the middle of the match, right?
Well,
like,
I don't think that
I can't like
if
I had a cable machine and I had some weights, right, and I brought it into like my deep hook and I locked it up, and my muscles went limp, my arm is opening, right?
Yeah. But
now, if I actually just put my arm on this chair and I hang some weights off of it, as long as it's strapped to my arm, that angle isn't changing. Yeah, like my bones will.
It's gonna hurt though. That's gonna hurt.
I know. I'm not saying you guys don't hurt when you're doing the King's move. I'm sure it's very painful. I don't want to do it, but there's a difference in muscular support around that joint lock.
So, what do you think about Jerry when he's in his press?
Maybe I haven't pressed enough to know, but I mean, I think he's putting some power behind it. I think he's muscularly supporting it. It's at end of range of motion, so he does have some support, just like the hook. But I think he still has to muscularly support it more so than the King's move. You're right. And I don't know if I've ever seen Jerry go like completely calm and just like, hey, ref, that dude's usually going balls to the wall the whole time,
Yeah. But for sure, I think that all the good locks in arm wrestling, you are relying on connective structure and bones. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
I think anytime I'm in arm wrestling, it doesn't matter whether I'm in a hook. Like, I think that the scariest times I've actually thought that I'm going to do, damage to my body is in a hook or a press.
Yeah. So, all right, let me ask you this. Larry Wheels doing the King's move. He's a beginner. What are your thoughts? I think you made a video, but things are so busy. I don't even remember if I watched it. I can't remember things these days.
Yeah. So he definitely is. So he would be open top rolling. Right. Gotcha. So Larry was not at the end of his range.
Gotcha. But I saw the headline. Yeah. When they say King's move, I'm thinking Larry's armbarring.
I know.
And not only am I thinking he's armbarring himself, but I'm also picturing, Michael Todd, fucking like cheering him on in the corner, Right.
Wow.
Hey, look, Devon, another white guy ruining this young black kid. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's going on.
He's probably going to sign the contract.
Exactly.
Oh, man. Larry's got a lot. Hey, speaking of talented colored dudes over there, oh, my God. Awa. Oh, my God. That Khalid, he is incredible. He's incredible. But so I mean, it was maybe a bit clickbaity, I mean, open top roll. Larry's doing an open top roll, and he's doing it very well. And to me, and that's the thing why I don't differentiate so much, because the only difference between what you're doing technically in an open top roll versus a King's move is you're at the end of your range. That's it. Everything else is the same. And it's
I don't know, Devon. So one, you got the bone here, but you got that shoulder pronation when you're at the full range of motion. I don't think you have it in the middle, but like at the end, like, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've seen Michael go freaking sideways.
Oh, I've done it. Yeah. I did it with Dave. I'm like arm wrestling. I'm like this.
Yeah.
And that's an important, that's how you're supposed to do it. But this is still, that's how you're supposed to open top roll too. Like if I'm open top rolling, I want to get that thing out. I want to get my elbow out. So instead of like turning the clock over like this, you're trying to bring it down and it's in like a wedge. That's one of the technical ways that your King's moving, is you want to get that elbow out so that the person, it's not like you're turning the clock over. It's like you're trying to bring it down, but it doesn't work that way. It's kind of difficult to explain, but when I saw Larry arm wrestling in this style, I'm like, beautiful, because
I don't know. I think Larry needs to be trained.
Oh yeah,
by some European like Coach Devon. Like there are people that train world champions, like produce world champions like clockwork.
Oh yeah.
And I think some of these coaches are kind of taking anybody and like making them world champions.
Yeah, there's some really good trainers, who talk fundamentals, who with the way they train, guys like Engen, guys like Krasimir, absolutely there is textbook fundamental arm wrestling, which everyone should do. Everyone. And I would tell everybody that this is the way that you should arm wrestle. However, I will also say that when that guy is stronger than you, and depending on where you sit, that's definitely going to happen at some point, then you want to technically understand how to do these moves. You will not always be the strongest guy in the room. And, good arm wrestling will let you beat those people who are stronger. And even as an arm wrestler, like when you talk arm wrestling strength, we're all talking about the same stuff. Center of the table fundamentals. This is what wins you good arm wrestling. This is what wins you arm wrestling matches, combined with how good of a technician you are. And if you have the ability to King's move, your technical multiplier is just way higher. It's way higher. It's interesting. And so I'm very pro people learning how to arm wrestle in all ways. Okay. But yes, arm wrestle fundamentally. But the problem is the sport has changed a little bit. And it really changed when we started to just hand out the strap for free. And that's the reality of it. It's so hard not to have a match with a strap if one of the two people wants it to go there, especially in WAL, where they're just going to give it to you before you even start the match.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what that means is people have really started to understand that strap arm wrestling is not the same as arm wrestling without a strap. And it will be very hard to convince me at this time that there is a better top roll out there than an open top roll. Very hard to convince me. Once you have a strap, somebody asked me, what's the technically most sound option for top roll? Well, absolutely, being up high, cupping straight down, arm inside the body, absolutely the way to go. But you better be ready for that guy right away who understands that he's not as strong, to give that up and get into that King's move. And if you're not ready for it, you're going to be here, and then your wrist is going to go back. And if you've gone down that rabbit hole, you are screwed. You're screwed in the match if the guy knows how to arm wrestle. So I do think that there's a shift a little bit when you talk about accessibility of the strap. I think that it comes much like the sport is changing a little bit. You need to be able to get way past people. The openings have changed. The setup has changed. So it was fascinating to me because open top rolling and kings moving to me used to be something really rare. Now, I never really felt too many people doing it. Probably about a year and a half ago, I went down to a gym in Toronto. Couple guys got gym. This guy Couch. He's a world record holder for powerlifting. Super strong dude. Super strong. He's got a brother. There's a guy Jason Constantini who you might know from Table Monkeys. He puts out videos now. Really good guy. There's a crew down there. So there's like 4 or 5 of them, and this crew of guys, they all started like, so their first teacher in arm wrestling was Crazy George.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So they're learning from their first day how to arm wrestle from George. And I go down to this club and I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, these guys got like a year in and they're all kings moving properly. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, you guys are great. I'm like, you guys are doing it right. I'm like, I can't believe it. So they're pulling, and look at, they're not way ahead of the pack or anything. I'd say in their peer group, they're very good, but just the ability to do the move doesn't mean that you're like Superman or anything like that. It just means that they have a great technical of understanding of what's required for success within, the King's move strategy. And so I've seen guys wrap their mind around what the open top roll is and be able to do it without a wonky elbow. So no wonky elbow, no disability, just an understanding of what it means to open top roll, King's move, arm wrestle. And so, yeah, I would tell anybody that they should at least understand it, understand how to do it, definitely understand how they need to be able to beat it. Because it gets so murky for me. Like, to me, the real issue is what Krasimir talking about, end of range. And people talk about the foul, the shoulder below the table foul. And yes, okay, so that's what we've decided for safety reasons. I think that's why they put it in, right? Break arm position, dangerous position, hyperextension.
Or, I mean, I don't know, Devon. I wasn't around, but it could have simply been because if you go below the table, then you can't get their stretched arm to the pad.
I think
it seems to make sense.
Yeah, I think it was written for a dangerous position, hyperextension.
Yeah, and then I mean, but we don't have any protective rules at the pro level now. I mean, even if it's on paper, they're not stopping matches.
Well, in WAF they would.
Wait, I mean, yeah, shoulder below the table.
Not just shoulder below the table, but they'll stop dangerous position.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. If you start to arm wrestle like this,
Dude, Cobra. Did you remember Cobra in 2010 in Vegas?
I don't think they're going to stop Cobra ever. But I think if you go to WAF, and if you do dangerous position, if you're looking away from your arm, and if you start to look away like this, I'm pretty sure that they'll give you. I mean, it's in the rules.
I know it's in the rules, but I mean, I don't think that's enforced. I think it's in there, but not enforced. But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I know at any other tournament that uses similar rules, whether it's WAF or IFA, no one's stopping anybody in the pros.
No, and I don't think that they should.
Yeah,
I don't think that they should. But that's fine. Okay. So what they're calling it for, whatever, the unfairness of it, but that's fine. But the problem is a guy who's got a bent elbow, it doesn't apply, right? Like, I mean, Michael's, George's, they don't have to be anywhere near the shoulder below the table and have that bone lock kicking in.
Correct. And that's why people are using the rules to fight the joint lock issue. They don't really care about the rules, and I know that the shoulder below the table rule won't take Michael or George out of the game. That's why you never hear me mentioning the rules. It's just what do you allow from a joint lock standpoint? Is it the same as a deep hook joint lock, or is it something different? And then that's a discussion and whether it should be allowed or not allowed. But I think the rules is just a grasp on how to, or like reaching, trying to shut it down, you know?
What do you think should be done?
I don't know. I'm not a fan of it, you know, all the way locked out, but I don't think you can police it. I like talking about it, but I just think there's nothing you can do about it. I do like, you know, you said the solution to it is freedom arm wrestling, right? And I was like, oh, great, you can't go below the table. But in my head, that wasn't the issue to begin with, you know? And so we've been messing around with freedom here at the house, which is ridiculous. I mean, we went 90% harder than we like wanted to. Fucking ruined my whole week of workouts. Yeah. You know what I mean? And but I put my arm on the table and I looked at my arm and I said, well, fuck, you're still not beating Michael.
Well, here's the thing. Okay. So on the freedom piece, so when you guys are doing it, you shouldn't be using an arm wrestling table. Okay. Because you got those like steel circles or
hold on. You said like any table, anywhere. That's my home field advantage. Yeah. I know where the metal pieces are. Like you're going to get fucked. It's home court. Okay. Anywhere.
Yeah, it can be anywhere. But I mean, you want to pick a table that's not going to hurt you. Like, you don't want there to be like these things on there where you're going to smash your elbow to pieces when you hit it. It'd be better if you're talking about like a smooth surface. That's probably.
And I don't know if you saw it, but like I'm pulling Brad and like I rolled him and his hand hit the peg and I said, that's a win. And he's like, no, it's not. It's like, dude, this is home court. These are the rules. I smashed your hand on the peg. You lose. Yeah.
I wouldn't be using a table with a peg for freedom, ideally. I mean, whatever, but definitely you want to have elbow protection. Like you want to be rocking a sleeve. Yep. Now, the reason why freedom works well against the King's move, so that means end of range, because, right? So arm wrestling, I feel like in arm wrestling, the real advantage. So really what's really awesome is, you know how you have inside arm wrestling and outside arm wrestling? And to me, the big dividing point there is whether you're going forward or you're going back. All right. Inside, when I'm arm wrestling inside, generally my shoulder is coming forward, right? And when I'm outside arm wrestling, my shoulder is normally backing off. Okay. And there is obviously a big blend to all that. Like you have more or less, but when a match stops, so wherever that is, whether you're a top roller and you stop the match, whether you're an inside puller, boom, and you stop the match, I feel like normally the guy who is really, really winning is the guy who has the ability to own the top of the mountain. And what I mean by that is, so match stops, I've done it by bringing my shoulder forward, boom, right? Back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, you know, so that no matter what, it keeps your opponent stuck, either running or staying in, so that they cannot come over the top or bring their shoulder back into the game once they've committed to one lane. Because normally when they say go, it's very rare, like unless you're John, that you just boom, stay right in the middle. That's rare.
Yeah.
Normally you're going hard, either in or out. Anyways, when you King's move, there's this advantage because you're locked into this playing field, right? And so you get stuck. You can stick a guy, and if you have that hard lock, you can really sit there comfortably. You can really sit there. Now, one of the reasons why, like when you look at the Jerry match, Jerry versus Michael, I mean, Jerry's stuck. He's stuck on that. He's stuck right there. If Jerry didn't have an elbow pad, okay, he could just keep coming forward. And Michael, because he's running, he's going to be forced right off the table in that King's move.
Yeah.
And that's what freedom arm wrestling will allow. The greater playing field will allow you to force someone's elbow off the playing surface in a King's move. Technically, it very much weakens the option. When you like just with people's anatomy, when you're a 6'3" guy, you can only reach so far. You can only reach so far. And if somebody's got a hard stop, good luck. Good luck. You know? So I think that the answer myself, because look at, I mean, people think I'm so pro King's move. I just hate the idea of shrinking anything. I don't want to see things shrunk. I would much rather see us try and grow it and then have another whole list of problems that we have to overcome. Instead of just making it smaller and make it smaller until we're just in the gym doing powerlifting.
So on that note, I'll segue, but I think it ties in. This week we've had the Levon and Michael Todd WAL versus PAL contracts discussion. And I guess PAL made some comments about you, Duck and Dennis, and all this other stuff.
Oh my God. It was, and that's the only reason I got involved. That's really the only reason.
Yeah.
It was,
and I'm of course, I'm never in the back. I mean, you know, I'm not in the middle of you guys' discussions or anything, but I mean, I never got the impression, you know, that you were Duck and Dennis. I mean, even on Northeast board, I remember it was always, you know, anytime, anywhere, you know, maybe drug tested, maybe not, you know. And I remember the big thing was Dennis. There couldn't be enough money for Dennis, basically. That's what I remember back in the day, you know.
Yeah, we offered him $100,000 for drug tested or $50,000 for no drug test.
Where'd that money come from?
That was Marvin. So
God. Well, hey, if I was Devon, if I was Dennis, I wouldn't have showed up for that shit either.
I know. But we had legit offers from Neil Pickup. So Neil had, I think it was $10,000 for him to show up. And at the time, nobody was getting $10,000 for anything. Okay, so he was being offered a larger purse than PAL or anyone else was paying him. We tried. We absolutely tried. They were, okay, so this is what happened, okay? Now, this is ancient history, okay? But look, and I love Dennis, okay? Please, nobody think that this is in any way a slam at Dennis, because I'm sure Dennis wanted to arm wrestle me too, okay? So back when some people considered that I was pretty good, so 2008 to 2012, Dennis, so I guess notable periods when you talk about Dennis, I think that Dennis beat John in 2009, right? So I beat John in 2008, and then a couple weeks later, he went over and killed Dennis.
John beat Dennis in 2009.
Yeah.
2008. Okay. Yeah.
I think. And I think it was 2009 that Dennis beat John. I think
it was 2010 because that was the injured Brezink after pulling Jerry at UAL1 and had the messed up shoulder. 2009, John was a beast, I think.
Okay. So whether it was 2009, 2010, so somewhere around there, Dennis was kind of the guy from that part of the world. Yeah. So right around then, we tried to get him, and the response was always just come to Nemiroff and pull the tournament. He's right here. And I know from my perspective, I didn't want that. I just wanted Dennis. I just wanted to pull Dennis, and they wanted me to come to the tournament. I didn't really want to do that. I kind of figured if I went over there to pull the tournament, it wouldn't go well for me. I thought that my chances would be much better to pull him in a one-on-one. I thought if I faced him in a tournament, there would be my paranoid mind made me believe that, you know, nobody would really pull Dennis and everybody would just, you know, hammer on me. And, that's what would happen. Well, that's what I assumed. So, you know, But
Dennis is doing the same thing too, right? His chances against you are better in a tournament than a 6-round super match, especially at the time, right?
But the problem in my mind was that there were so many variables in the tournament. And I thought it would be much more fair to do a one-on-one, whatever the format was, whether it was a 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5 or whatever. But those things could certainly be discussed. But so there was never an agreement that took place. And then 2013 rolled around, and I was out of the discussion anyways because I was having surgery. And then 2017, after the WAL finals, right? So WAL finals rolls around, and at the after party, I'm like, it's time to get huge. 220, like, because I knew that there was no more WAL, right? Because WAL fell through. And I'm like, okay, well, there's no relevance for me being a 225-pound puller because, if we go back to super matches, nobody cares about a 225-pound division. All people care about is who's versus
the biggest
who.
and baddest. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So people don't care about weight with super matches so much. So at that point, I was like, I basically called out the world, and it was early for me. But anyways, so they answered the call at that point. And what happened was, so all the contracts basically got dissolved. So 2018, WAL woke back up again, right? So the early part, so probably, I don't know, January or something, Steve's like, yeah, it's going to happen again. We're going to do it again. And it took a long time for me to sign that contract. 2018, it went all the way to March before I signed. And I signed a 3-year contract. And surprisingly, it's 2021 and March is 1 month away. So I'm a free agent in like 1 month. And in that contract, after a lot of back and forth, some of the things that we decided on was I had the right to pull Dennis anywhere, anytime, with no restrictions. That was one of the things I wrote into my contract. And PAL, and I had surgery in 2017. Oh my God, was it that recent? Yeah, right at, oh my God, is that right? Yeah, so I was really fresh. So 2017, no, it was 2016. 2016, I had surgery. So right after the finals, like 2 weeks after the finals in 2016, I had left arm surgery. And I was so surprised that the following year, 2017, I managed to squeak by and win the class at 225s. Matt almost beat me that year in the left. He got a win on me left-handed. Yep. But I feel like I came together just enough in a year that I was able to win that class again. But I knew I was far from perfect. Anyways, so we started to talk about the match with Dennis, and I wanted to pull him right hand. All of 2018 was all right-handed, like the entire season was right hand. I was training my right hand exclusively. And they were like, it must be left hand. It must be left hand. I really didn't want it to be left hand, but.
Who said it must be left hand? PAL or WAL?
PAL.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. It had nothing to do with the WAL restrictions whatsoever. I was free in my contract to do anything I wanted with Dennis. Yeah, I could arm wrestle them right hand, left hand, whatever. Doesn't matter. And I wanted it. All my training, my surgery lineup, everything was set for right hand. But they wanted left for 2 reasons. The reason.
Oh, yeah. The match with Pushkar.
Right. Because I had that belt. I had the belt and they wanted it back. And even though, like, look at people talk about who's the best left-hander from North America. There was times when I kind of touched it. But look, I think that if you look over the history, it's Travis is the best left-hander in North America consistently. But I just managed, whether he was not so motivated or I was really good for a little period. There was probably a time around right when my right hand was really crappy. So 2012 to probably 2013. So a very short window where my left hand was really, really good. And that just so happened to be when I pulled Pushkar. I pulled Travis. I beat Travis in 2000 and 2010, I think. So maybe it was a bit longer. Maybe it was like 2010 to 2013. It was not a bad arm, but they wanted to clean that up. They wanted to make sure that win got avenged. And the other thing, I think that I don't know. I think that they really weren't open to me pulling right hand, because when, at the event, when Pushkar, when Pushkar died, I told him, I'm like, look, I'll jump in. I'm like, I'll pull Dennis right and left. I'm like, you don't even have to pay me anything extra. I'll just do it.
I remember you said it was in play, but it didn't, obviously it didn't happen.
Right. Yeah. Oh, you were there. Yeah.
Yeah. I was on the side table when Vitaly was tearing your ass up too.
Yeah. Wow. that guy, that's an impressive dude. Yeah, I think he would have beat Oleg that day. I had my money on him.
Yeah. So talking about all the PAL versus WAL stuff, I mean, the hoops they're trying to put Michael through, I don't see. I mean, WAL does the same thing, right? WAL doesn't just roll an open red carpet out to Monster to just come into WAL and clean up shop.
That's not true.
It's invite only. So that was my thing listening to all these discussions, was that people were just.
That's just not true.
What's that?
They absolutely do that.
I haven't seen it. So WAL's opened the door to anybody and they've just turned it down.
Well, has who did Krasimir pull?
Say that again?
So who did Krasimir pull?
Krasimir pulled Marcio.
Before that.
Oh, Chafee.
Yeah, opening match, right out of the gates. Boom. Welcome to the league.
Yeah, but WAL has consistently stated that you have to climb the ranks, blah, 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 blah. Chafee wasn't the champion, I don't think. It was Michael Todd.
Where have they stated that?
I mean, that's just discussions with Neil, podcasts, that kind of thing. No one just comes in and gets a match, right?
Well, I think people...
And I know, like, if I trained up Devon and I wanted to join, I really wouldn't want to go through the bottom of the roster. I'd want to go just pull Rob, right? And also probably be done with the WAL after that.
Well, I think
that's the scheme that they use. And so my point really is that I don't think PAL's the bad guy, maybe outside of insulting you or whatever. WAL has their own things, whether it's how they handle people coming to the WAL or it's them not allowing their guys to compete elsewhere.
I think it's a credibility thing. I mean, I think that when the athlete is chosen and when he comes in, I think an applicable match is chosen. I think if WAL was able to get Levon or Vitaly or Gennady, I don't think they're really gonna have. They might have one match before the top, but if you're Levon, it would just be a complete insult and a complete ridiculous idea for Levon to pull anybody but Michael. Like, to have Levon go through the roster would be a completely ridiculous idea.
And would WAL let their top athletes pull right-handed against a Levon or Vitaly Laletin and all that type of thing? Now, I know your contract specifically had a bypass for Dennis. But the contracts as written typically aren't that loose, right?
Well, so what I would say is I am certain that the WAL is actively trying to pull in every top talent that they can think of. So if you think that all those guys haven't been contacted or at least thought about, that would be a mistake. Like,
my point is, I think people jumped on PAL, and I think both sides are exactly the same.
Well,
PAL, Devon will take you, they'll take Michael, they'll take Chafee, and they'll own arm wrestling. WAL will do the opposite, and they'll own arm wrestling. It's the exact same thing, right? And PAL's not really wanting Levon probably to go to the WAL, and the WAL wouldn't really want you guys to go over there competing. It's the same thing. So when I'm listening to all this, it's not so much, PAL's bad, or I think the WAL's the devil. They're the same,
Well, I don't think that they're the same. I think that they are different. right? Like there is a big difference between WAL and PAL from a contractual standpoint and what the leagues represent. Like I think that culturally, contractually, I think there are big differences between the leagues. I'm pretty sure that contractually, I'm pretty sure that Michael is okay to pull Levon. I don't want to speak for the league, but it'd be my guess that he's good to pull him kind of right now.
That's based on, you think, a standard contract or something he wrote in, like I'm not signing unless.
I don't have all the details to Michael's contract, but I assume that if he's able to organize something either off script or with PAL cooperation, I believe that he could do it. That's what I think. Now, gotcha. You might want to check with Michael, but I'm pretty sure he's got a clause in his contract that lets him kind of do what he wants. Now, they might get pissed off about it, but I'm pretty sure he's allowed.
Yeah, and so, I think in recent years, Rob Vigent has said that the contracts aren't as restrictive as I described, right? And the contracts that I'm talking about are the ones I read in 14, 15, 16, 17. At some point, I stopped requesting them because they weren't changing. So I truly believe that these contracts are open, but I also know that I've been told that they will tell a puller, yeah, you can contractually do this, but this might not help you in your image or your profile. So then that puts pressure on you to not do that so that potentially you get more matches with the WAL. You understand?
Well, there's for sure choices.
Yeah. But if you're Michael, you're Michael. So that was my thing. It was always, there was a different tier of puller where you guys have a lot of flexibility that someone like myself wouldn't. But like on that note, I think you're probably bigger than arm wrestling at this point, Devon. At least from a social media standpoint, right? I think your channel is so huge that I think you'll be able to generate enough funds to more than take care of your lifestyle and also put on these matches. Like what stops you guys from just blowing up these fucking contracts right now?
Well,
like, do we need the leagues? Yeah, yours is almost done. So like, do we even need a WAL or a PAL? I mean, your channel, Alex Beziazikov, you guys can pump up Michael's and Travis's, and you got Larry Wills and Juji in the mix. Like, there's really no need.
Oh, no. I don't really agree with you there for the following reasons. So first of all, some of us have kind of got two things going on. So we're arm wrestlers and we're promoters. Okay, I'm one. Michael's become one. Arm Wrestling TV is killing it. Blue, he's there, right? So there's a few of us who on the promotional side have gotten our stuff to a level where, yeah, we probably can live our arm wrestling dream without really requiring the league so much. But even I still need the league. Like the Schoolboy is different. Okay, Schoolboy's a different category altogether. There's things that the leagues offer. One, they offer a level of cooperation, which is really hard to attain as an individual. Even at the level that, say, I'm at. So, I mean, when you talk about how much money does it cost to do a WAL event, that's a level of investment that I'm not anywhere near. Like, I'm not anywhere close to that. And even a channel as big as Arm Wrestling TV, kind of guessing what his numbers are, the amount of coordination and logistics and investment that would be required to run an event, in my mind, would not get the return, right? So the leagues are investing a ton of money. Like,
yeah, but I don't think it has to be that costly. Like, I mean, Neil would know better than me, obviously, right?
No.
There's
I agree.
there's a tailor-made for YouTube type of deal.
Yeah.
Devon, I think if you did a local tournament in Ontario or whatever with a bunch of bums and you put it on your channel, it'll get more views than the WAL stuff.
Well, it depends on who's arm wrestling.
Huh?
It depends on who's arm wrestling. Yeah.
I think that if you hit the live button right now, you've got hundreds of thousands of subscribers. There are going to be so many people that are going to just boom. It's going to hit their phone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right to a certain degree, but when you do that same thing in cooperation, what the league does is it provides this next level. So yes, so the league, when I go there and put on that show in front of an audience, in front of the cameras, with the lights, with everybody else, everybody's getting paid, the refs. I mean, that's a 200. That's maybe a $100 to $200,000 night. That's a lot of investment. The venues, like, it is a lot of coordination to put these things together. And when people watch it, like when people watch that, it gives a lasting impression of legitimacy and hype, much more than me on my Nokia,
Yeah, no, but come on, Devon. You have so many connections. It doesn't have to be that way. Drellick, the Brad Cooks, these guys will load up to do this in a certain way, especially if someone like Neil's running it. You and Michael Todd, 2011, was that a couple $100,000 affair?
I don't think so.
I don't know, but I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. But even that, like, if I was going to arm wrestle Michael again, okay, and it's going to happen. And does it look at what are the options for me pulling Michael? I could pull, and we're talking about this year. I can go down and hang out at his place and arm wrestle him in his gym for a couple weeks. Awesome. Great content. It'll grow my YouTube channel. Real nice. Yeah.
Great pancake shop in Hot Springs too.
Right? It'll be fantastic. Okay. Or WAL picks back up, or Giants Live picks back up, and we do it at an Arnold Classic in front of and it's different to me when you have that league backing, that league legitimacy. I think that it leaves a more credible thing, not just to my own personal channel, but to the greater community. I think people who watch it who aren't necessarily following me already. Like, I think so if somebody who doesn't know arm wrestling, doesn't know me, sees that YouTube video of two guys arm wrestling in a garage, and it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. These guys might be good. Or you have the WAL stage, the pit, the audience, the announcer, the refs, the lighting, the ring girl, and they're like, these two, and the legitimacy of that, I think people are like, wow, and they're drawn to it, and they're like, this is really cool, much more so. So I think there has to be I hear guys talking about we don't need the leagues. I think that's a really shaky argument. I think there's a cooperative, and people need to take advantage of social media. Absolutely. Like, you need to promote yourself. People, you need to know who you are. But just to say that we don't need leagues anymore, I mean, then we're all backyard boxing, and I mean, that's cool, but
hey, Game of Arms did well. They were in meat lockers and all kinds of stuff.
Yes, but guess who ran Game of Arms?
Yeah, I mean, it was on AMC. I mean, it was on big time TV and all that stuff,
And they spent way more money than a league ever did. It was a massive investment. And that's what I think people have to remember, is these leagues are investing so much money into arm wrestling. Like, if it weren't for the leagues, if it weren't for PAL, if it weren't for WAL, if it weren't for Game of Arms, we'd still just be doing the same thing, and probably none of us would be famous.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, we've there's a foundation that they've built that we can basically springboard off of.
Yeah.
And again, I think, Devon, I wouldn't even propose bypassing the leagues if it wasn't for the contracts and all the matches that don't happen. Like, more matches don't happen than do happen, I think, because of the leagues.
I think that there's a lot of people who say that. I think that there's a lot of people who say, oh, these guys are contracted and we can't get them at the leagues and it's a contract. I don't think that that's what's going on. I think that what happens is you get a guy who's involved in, say, PAL or WAL. Okay, so if a guy's in PAL and, okay, so right now is a mess. Okay, so let's just discount right now. Okay, we can get to right now, but let's go back. So let's say it's 2018, 2019. And you do have a contract. And let's say you might have 1, 2, maybe if you're lucky, you might have 3 matches in a year, but probably you only got 1 or 2 matches in a year. But in that 1 or 2 matches, that 1 or 2 matches is probably worth more to you than anything else you're going to do throughout the entire year combined. So when you are this athlete, you can say, oh, the contracts are stopping me. It's just, no, you don't have a better offer. Like, when you talk about as an arm wrestler, is there any reason for me to go to any event that's local that's going to detract from my performance on the main stage? The answer is probably no. It's probably no. In the off season, even then, guys are allowed to do basically what they want in the off season. Like, I mean, and you've seen it. You look at earlier. You said I was able to do arm wrestle Todd Hutchings. Todd Hutchings was under contract. Didn't stop him from arm wrestling with you, did it?
Special contracts, Devon. That's what I'm saying. The stuff that I've read would have prevented that. Todd Hutchings was in violation of his contract doing that match if it was anything like the contracts that I would have had to sign. And the truth is, again, some people simply violate them and then say, okay, well, I'll deal with the repercussions if they have them. And if you're the hammer holder, then maybe they're not going to, what are they going to do? Send Todd Hutchings home and suspend him, kick him out of the league? It won't happen, right? So that's the thing. You got different tiers of pullers, right? And preferential treatment and that sort of thing.
Every single time that I've asked the WAL for anything, not only have they said yes, but they've said, how can we help you? So there is this big misconception that, they're stomping on everything. It's just not true. And I think that it's done.
Devon, some of this I get from contracted athletes that are disappointed with their contracts, right? Again, I think you're special.
You want to
and
out them?
I don't think.
Who are we talking about?
No, I'm not going to out the guys. You know what I mean? But like, you're special. Like, really, Devon, they have to make you happy. Otherwise, the money train kind of walks off. If you leave, if they fucked you, Devon, your contract's coming up at some point, whether it was this month or a year or 2 years, and you just said, I'm leaving, you take a lot of credibility away from the league. They have to work with you, right? If you leave, then that takes the league down a notch. Then Michael Todd goes, well, Dave Chafee's gone, Devon's gone. Well, I'm going to go pull with those guys, right? That you guys are special. And I think there's a lot of blue-collar WAL workers that don't get the same treatment,
It's
and like, even now, kind of the stuff that I've heard is that they don't want their athletes pulling right-handed matches against each other. Like, you can go do TAL and you can pull left-handed. Maybe you can pull another WAL guy left-handed, but you can't pull each other right-handed. So if I was contracted at that time under the same logic, I still wouldn't be able to pull Todd. Right? So again, the paperwork is just not good. And who's gonna just trust, the rich guy in the office that he's gonna work with me later on when I want to go to a rival league, and potentially devalue his title. Like, if I got the title and I go lose it to like the number 6 guy in Europe. Yeah, there you go.
I hear you.
But you're special.
Difficult choices, really difficult choices. Yeah. All I could say, my advice to everybody would be never stop trying to increase your value. So whether that means always, work on your own value through your own social, through your own YouTube, through your own networks. But I do believe that there is value to be had in cooperation with the big guys. I really do, and I think it would be a shame. I think it'd be in the long term, unfortunate for the majority of the arm wrestlers if we lost them. Look at from my own perspective, from probably arm wrestling TV's perspective, Blue. It would probably be the best day for us if PAL and WAL dropped off the face of the earth, because then from a media perspective, okay, we have a bigger slice of the pie. But for the arm wrestling field, I think it's a terrible thing. Where does a guy with nothing get to showcase his stuff? On my channel? Do you think that I'm going to pay as much as a WAL match will? No way. Am I, even Alex, is he in a position to pay Michael Todd and Jerry Cadorette the amount that I know that they got paid to do a match? He'd be crazy to. He'd be insane. It wouldn't make any sense at all. I think that there would be a few people that would benefit, but the vast majority would lose big.
Yeah, in this moment. But I mean, this is the very beginning, Devin.
Yeah.
Huh?
In this moment. Yeah.
5 years, 10 years, I don't know what it looks like. I mean, I think it's a whole different show.
Yeah, for sure. And it's always hard to predict. The best predictor of the future is these stories that I write for my kids.
What?
You haven't seen them. Have you seen the story of Michael? You haven't seen it. Oh man. Well,
I need to watch it.
Have you seen the story of Schoolboy?
No.
Well, that's how you can know what the future is. And please, after watching them, if you have a request, please leave it in the comments. I think my next up is the story of Dave. I think I'm going to write that probably within the next couple of days.
That's not going to be good.
Well, it's going to be really good. Okay. Stay tuned for the story.
I'll watch those two stories, and I might have to do a review of it on my channel. Hey,
buddy, it's been really good to catch up with you. I'm a big fan.
Hey, one more thing before we wrap it up. One thing, I think I've been pretty good. I wasn't too mean in this discussion, but I've been thinking about whether I should tell this or say this or repeat it. But it's been itching, right? So we talk about King's move and all this other stuff, and we can be really nasty about it. I remember this was about 2 years ago. WAL was doing the BR Live stuff, and it was on at 7:00. So my wife and I would watch it in bed, and so she's familiar with the arm wrestlers and stuff going on. Like she knows about Jerry's tongue, like that weird thing, and so we saw some Michael Todd matches. And so one morning, I think it was the day after, I might be rewatching a match. And I'm probably sitting there at my desk in disbelief at the King's move. And I said, Jenny, what would you do if I became a King's mover? And she says, well, honey, you're my man, so I'd have to support you. But deep down inside, I know you were a big pussy.
Oh, wow. Wow. She's hardcore. Man, are you sure?
And she's like the sweetest person ever. It's like super nice. She's the exact opposite of me. So that's when I realized that I had no options with respect to the King's move.
Man, she really painted you into a corner there, huh?
Yeah.
See, I don't know. The way I see it is my future is going to be me like clawing for and using every single nasty thing in the possible to win a match, and it's just going to get worse for me. I know it.
Yeah.
Like if you think it's bad right now, fast forward 5 years from now, and I probably should have died in the war. That would have been better. Because as arm wrestling grows, I am most likely going to become so despised and so hated because I won't stop. I don't want to stop, and I will do every stupid thing possible to stay in this.
And 10 years from now, I'll be doing a reaction video to when Devon was actually good. And the new kids will be like, whoa, that dude, he could hook.
Yeah, just a fat, tall, skinny guy with an arm that moves this much and just yelling at the refs all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe you should write a story of the future.
Maybe so. We'll have to see. Once I get a house and my desk set up, I can do something more than the camera phone stuff. So, yeah.
Hey, thanks for the talk, buddy. All the
Thanks
best.
for having me.
Yeah. If you guys stuck around this long, for sure, go and subscribe to Herman. He might just be the future of the middleweight division, non-contractually in North America.
Yeah. Later, man.
How would I do this? And stop recording.